Honda's Summer Spectacular event is on, and every new Honda is on sale.
South Florida Honda has it.
Well-qualified buyers can save thousands today with 1.9% APR financing on the 2019 Honda CR-V. 2019 Edmunds buyers' most wanted vehicle. Every new CR-V is on sale, and you'll save thousands with 1.9% APR financing during the Summer Spectacular event at your local Honda dealer. Compact SUV segment. See dealer for financing details. Offer ends 9/3/19.
TV party tonight. TV party tonight.
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits! Everybody loves Hypnotoad! Scary Dog! Pearson at Blurnsville!
Futurama.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TV Party Tonight, where tonight our favorite show is Good Omens, brought to you by the good people at Amazon Prime, Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett, and... wow, they don't list the production company. There we go. And the Blink Corporation and BBC Studios. I was looking in the wrong part. I am your bumbling host, Mr. Mark Radledge, and frankly, I'm mortified. And I'm leaving a terrible impression on our guest tonight, who has a much more professional-sounding podcast. He doesn't have the stumble bumbles. What he does is he does the resurrections, folks. That you look to this man for the resurrections and the Infinity Stones. He is Al Sedano. How you doing, Al?
I'm good, thanks, Mark. I was confused. I thought this was on Netflix, I heard.
Damn it, he took my joke.
I was worried you were going to do it.
That voice you hear that just got checked into the boards and is now currently ass over tea kettle in the penalty booth is Jesse Starcher of the Source Material Podcast. How you doing, Jesse?
Oh, I have one question for you, gentlemen. How many nipples do you have?
The usual amount.
Enough to get the job done? All right.
Well, now we all have the appropriate amount of nipples. We can move forward on this.
Hold on.
No, he's
I'm
counting.
good.
Fantastic.
I gotta make sure things change sometimes. You get older, stuff happens.
No.
So this is, now, you're listening to the Radeligion Broadcasting Network, where our motto is books are for burning. It's not, I just kid about that. But we don't cover a whole lot of material that is an adaptation of novels. I mean, the occasional one that happens to come up for one reason or another, sure, but it's not something we actively try to do. But in the case of Good Omens, I actually read the book, I believe, when it came out, and it's been a while, so I don't remember a tremendous amount about it. Let me pitch it over to you guys. Al, have you ever actually read Good Omens?
You basically stole what I was going to say about the book. I read it years ago. I don't even know if I was dating my wife, so this is at least over 10 years ago. I kind of just remembered the basic plot. Angel and demon try to stop the end of the world.
How about you, Jesse? I know that you like to wander the neighborhood in the still of the night fondling people's junk, and you usually come away with their libraries.
Saturday morning, sir. Don't do it in the still of the night or anything like that. No, it's
in the cold
it's
moonlight.
called yard sales, sir.
Thanks for clearing that up.
I had no idea this was a book until obviously it popped up on when it popped up on Amazon, and I'd been seeing and hearing some buzz about it. I was like, well, what is this? And I did not have any idea that it was actually based off of anything. So yeah, didn't even know it existed, but apparently it came out in 1990.
Yes, sir.
So
Yep.
yeah, and I've heard of Neil Gaiman, so I know what we're getting into there. I think he's responsible for the Sandman universe, right, Al?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he did the Sandman series for DC.
Switching it back to comics, but yeah, he wrote a book. That's I think he's probably wrote quite a few books, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, and a couple of them have been adapted. American Gods, which became a TV show, and also a book called Neverwhere, which they made a BBC movie, which was pretty good.
I don't know that one.
He wrote Stardust, American Gods, as you said, Coraline, which I assume was adapted into the
movie.
The movie, which scares the fuck out of one of my kids.
Same with Stardust. That was also the movie.
The Graveyard Book, which I have no idea what that is.
He has one or two books of short stories, so maybe that's one of the short stories.
Okay. And then we have Sir Terence David John Pratchett, who is best known for Discworld, which has 41 novels in it. He's a fantasy author. I don't really think I've read much by either one of these guys, quite frankly. But like I said, I was aware of the book, and then when I saw that Good Omens was on Amazon, I definitely wanted to check it out, and I happened to have seen both you guys talk about it a couple of months back when it dropped on Amazon, which was, what was the date? May 31st. So, yeah, we're getting, much like Lost in Space, we're finally getting to this. Jesse, what piqued your interest about Good Omens? What made you want to sit down and watch this 6-episode miniseries?
It was the cast. That was easily the thing that grabbed me the most. I like the subject matter, number one, but when I saw that the cast was going to involve David Tennant, and then it had Michael McKean, it also had John Hamm, who became one of my favorite actors after the White Christmas episode on Black Mirror. I really liked him, and I think I tried to watch Mad Men once or twice. Wife wouldn't have it, so. But anyway, I'm a big fan of John Hamm as well, and there were a couple others. I was like, holy crap, this cast is unreal. But David Tennant's got my attention anytime he's in something.
Are you a Doctor Who fan, Jesse?
Yes, I am. I haven't watched any in a while. I kind of dropped off after Capaldi took over, and I just haven't had the chance to jump into it. But I'll tell you right now that I have fond memories of watching the first season, and then when Tennant took over, up through Tennant's run with my family. We all sat down and watched that show. So a big fan, big Doctor Who fan, and love to watch it when I can. Al, you are too, right?
Yes, and I was actually going to say, you definitely have seen something by Neil Gaiman if you watch Doctor Who, if you were still watching it when Matt Smith was on.
He did the TARDIS episode, didn't he?
Yeah, when the Doctor's wife, when the TARDIS became a woman.
Yep.
And
I remember
there was
that.
one other one with the Cybermen where he's like babysitting 2 kids or something, and they're like on an amusement park in the moon or something.
Okay, I'm sure I probably watched it, or I just don't recall it.
I don't remember that one as well, but the other one was really good, and that was a Neil Gaiman written one.
I remember that specifically.
Al, I'm guessing you read the book, and when you saw they made a show of it, you were like, oh, I'd like to see what they came up with as a show for this book. That about sum it up for you?
Basically, yeah. And then once I saw who was in it, I was like, oh, even more interested. Because I like David Tennant. He's always entertaining. And I didn't even know Michael McKean was in it until I saw him in the show. I was like, holy crap, this is awesome.
I honestly didn't connect who it was until you were like, Michael McKean. Oh, Michael McKean from like Laverne and Shirley and Clue, and God, what else has he been in? I know he's been in a bunch of things.
He was in Better Call Saul here just recently.
Really?
He's Saul's brother. And he does a fantastic performance in that too.
It's really funny that the 2 things I remember Michael McKean for, and I know that he's been in a bunch of other stuff. He was in a show.
Spinal Tap.
Yes,
Spinal Tap, yeah.
Spinal Tap. There was another, I think it was a 30-minute comedy on Fox that I believe he was in as well. But I find it kind of hilarious to myself that the 2 things I remembered about him were Clue and Laverne and Shirley. And the only thing I've ever seen, John Hamm shows up here and there. I don't watch Mad Men either, but I remember that episode of Black Mirror too, and oof,
it was spectacular.
And I forgot about this. I'm just looking him up on IMDb real quick. I forgot. He was on Smallville 3 episodes. He played Perry White.
He did. Oh, look at that.
Right.
So this is a hell of a cast here. So let's get into it. Now, usually when I do these TV parties, we kind of go down the cast list and we talk about performances and craft, and we'll flesh out the plot elements by looking at the cast. But I'm going to change things up here a little bit, and let's actually talk about the story. The story is basically we have an angel and a demon who have a friendship over thousands of years after Adam and Eve are summarily booted out of the Garden of Evil. I believe it is God has a plan that involves the son of Satan, which David Tennant, who plays Crowley, who is the demon. His job is to take the baby, again, son of Satan, to an order of satanic nuns. If I remember correctly.
The story is so
Basically,
silly.
It's like the Omen. We're going to give the American diplomat the evil child, and Damien, come here, Damien.
But because of things, even God's plans often go astray, and so another couple happens to have showed up at the same time, and what we end up with is 3 babies in a great mix-up mix. So the diplomat goes with the common folk baby, the son of Satan goes with the common folk, and the third...
We don't ask what happened to it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. What happened to the third one? Does it say? It doesn't, does it?
No, they even say don't ask.
Oh,
yeah,
don't ask.
I'm
Okay.
pretty sure at some point Galactus gave him powers and he fucked off into space.
Brilliant.
For more on that, check out the Resurrections podcast.
Wait, I don't know if that... I haven't heard that episode yet, Al.
He helped Aunt May become golden oldie, and they went and found giant Twinkies for Galactus.
Oh, that's unreal. Unreal.
So that's as good a place as any to, and then so the whole thing revolves around stopping the end of the world. We meet a variety of other characters along the way. For the time being, let's just stick with our 2 leads here. Crowley, played by David Tennant, and Martin Sheen, who plays Aziraphale.
Michael Sheen. Not Martin Sheen. Wrong
Sorry,
dude.
Did I say Martin? Michael Sheen, sorry. Who plays Aziraphale. I'll go to you first, Al. I really liked the chemistry between these two. This is one of the legs that of the stool that this whole thing is resting on. If these two and their relationship isn't working, if there isn't a certain charm, certain charisma, shared charisma in this relationship, I think the whole show kind of falls apart. Luckily, I believe there's very strong charisma between the two. Their relationship is very fun, very entertaining. There's a lot of give and take, and I think both characters are played very interesting. What did you think of the Aziraphale-Crowley relationship?
Oh, I liked it. And agreed. That was one of the main things this show is based on, is their friendship. And if it didn't work, the whole thing was basically going to fall apart. And they did have a great chemistry together, and I did love the give and take between the two of them. I love how they would kind of took turns taking care of the other one, but pretending they weren't taking care of the other one. Helping out without helping out, so to speak.
What I liked...
They're on different sides.
Yes, and that's the thing. What I liked is that while Aziraphale is something of a fop, and Crowley, who... David Tennant, cooler than the other side of the pillow, right? He's just, especially when you see him when he's dealing with the baby, and I think it's like the 70s, maybe, and he's playing Queen, and he's got the long hair, and of course, because of his eyes, he's always wearing sunglasses. He has this just cooler than Jesus look about him, and so you've got this fop, and you've got this cooler than Jesus character, but each one of them kind of plays around on the opposite of their given personalities. One of the things that jumped out at me with reference to that, and I'll pitch it to you, Jesse, one of the things I loved is that, so they go out of their way of saying angels don't dance. Angels don't dance, okay? But there's Aziraphale, who learned one dance and just thought he could not have looked happier.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an interesting story, and especially this dynamic between, just kind of echoing what you guys said, these two people are from completely different sides. They're not supposed to be friends. They're not supposed to be, but they're not bad beings. They're people that are put in the employ of some rough employers, we'll say, and they have to, they have to do their job, but there's nothing saying that they really can't be friends. And Michael Sheen, I don't think I've ever seen anything with him in it.
You have? I just found out you have one thing then.
Okay.
On that aforementioned episode of Doctor Who,
that
David Tennant wrote, it said, I looked him up real quick because I wasn't sure if I saw him in anything either, and it said he was in one episode of Doctor Who playing House. And as far as I can remember, that was the name of the creature from that episode that was trying to take over the TARDIS.
Oh, no kidding.
So he was the voice of that monster.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
wow. That's crazy. Well, okay, so there's one thing. I don't. I didn't know what we were going to get when he showed up on the screen. I come to the party for David Tennant, and then I was like, okay, well, who, am I going to like this guy as an actor? And he plays. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of the word. It's just like this wholesome kind of gullible dolt. He's not really stupid, but he's just, he's very trusting. He's an angel, and he's come to like the human race. And he does not want to leave. He doesn't want to leave, and he pulled it off fantastically. I believe that he was probably one of the top actors, and he deserved top billing in this part because he did a great job. And acting, of course, opposite of David Tennant, you have to have some chops to even think about acting opposite of David Tennant. I mean, you really do. I remember him as Purple Man and Jessica Jones, and I was like, man, it's been a while since I've seen him do anything since Doctor Who. I didn't know if he could do it, and I was blown away. And then there was just, there was this series, and David Tennant again takes it to the nth level, acting as the demon Crowley, and he did a fantastic job as well. So this pair of actors in this show really made it up. It doesn't hurt that they had just a great supporting cast along with them, and it is a great cast when you look at some of the people that are involved here. I thought Nick Offerman was going to have a bigger role, but he was like, not only was he, I don't even know. Well, we see him like maybe 3 episodes, and one of those is on camera. But again, supporting cast is great. So these two, David Tennant and Michael Sheen, did a fantastic job.
Michael Sheen, according to the wiki, since 2009 and into 2010, became known for a number of wider variety roles, such as Underworld: Rise of the Lycans. And
he was in. I hadn't seen that, but that surprises me. Okay.
And the Twilight Saga: New Moon.
Not seen that one either.
He also appeared in a couple of episodes of 30 Rock, and in Tron Legacy, Jesse.
Oh, we didn't watch that. We almost did, didn't we?
Yeah, we almost did.
Almost.
Yeah. And apparently in the movie, because I say apparently because I had never watched it, the movie Frost Nixon, he was Frost.
Yes, he was.
So,
okay.
Which, but yeah, no. One thing about the characters, what you were saying a few minutes ago about how like neither one are fully bad, or like they don't fully play them. And it works. This makes sense why they're friends. He's an angel, but he's not the I'm going to follow every order exactly angel. He's like the only one that actually questions things, which is the more demonic side. Meanwhile, Crowley isn't really fully evil. I mean, he wasn't planning. He even says in this show, I wasn't planning to rebel. I was just like, oh, hey, there's Lucifer and Beelzebub and the other guys. Hey, what's going on? Next thing you know, I'm flying down to heaven. He wasn't really, planning on being a bad guy. His friends were more of the rebels. I mean, they could easily have been switched.
Yeah, their alignments seem to be of the neutral category. You have neutral good and you have neutral evil. But
that's better. I like that.
I think the common bond between them is the zest for the human experience, which comes up in a lot of fantasy, a lot of science fiction. Just the anything involving vampires or creatures that live for thousands of years. There's what a lot of authors tend to get into, and if this piques something in your mind, jump in there. But they tend to bring up this idea of once you've lived amongst human society for an extended period of time, you start to fall in love with certain elements of it, and you're loath to give it up. And so maybe your nature calls you one way, but the human experience has such a magnetism to it that it draws you another, and you become sympathetic. You become sympathetic to humanity. I've seen this over and over and over again. It's certainly present here. But the other commonality I saw between Aziraphale and Crowley was they have whether they chose, especially Aziraphale, whether they chose to admit it or not, there was a bit of selfishness on both of their parts. There was, yes, I serve a greater purpose, but I really like this. You know,
Yeah.
and while my function on this plane is to do a thing, I'd much rather be doing this. And it's kind of working around so that they can continue to do the things that make them happy, which I really liked. It humanized both. You know, in the hands of a lesser writer, this can become very hackneyed and over the top and silly. But I thought it was handled very deftly here, right, Al?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, if they're taking it from Gaiman and Pratchett's script, then yeah, no, that's something Gaiman has done quite a bit. And it's obviously, like you said, this is definitely a trope, you could say, that is done in shows like, or movies or this kind of fiction. I mean, my wife's doing a rewatch and I'm watching some of it with her of Buffy right now. You could definitely see that in the character of Spike, if anyone's watched Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as Spike hangs out with him, he becomes less of a monster. And also I saw, and I'm wondering if how much of this book, not the show, but the book, influenced something like Supernatural, because a lot of the elements of like how the angels were presented is very similar to how they do that in Supernatural. And I know obviously the book was first, and I have to wonder how much of the book did the creator of Supernatural read? You know, how much did that influence him?
Mm-hmm.
The other side of our cast here, there were kind of three parts that eventually come together towards the end. Let's talk about the kids. You know, as Robert Winfrey says on Damn You Hollywood, two things you really don't want in your movie because they seldom work: kids and dogs.
And this is both.
Yes. But this is the third leg of the stool. If the kids aren't working, if they don't have a certain charisma about them, if they are... I don't know if either one of you saw Dumbo. If you haven't, check out my review and spare yourself the horror. But there's a...
Oh, the new one? No.
Yeah. There's a female actress, a child actress in the movie who's so bad she should be studied. Like, I don't like to pick on kids, but this girl needs a different career path, and it can just take a poor performance, especially one by a child, can take you right out of the movie. But I got to give the cast of kids credit here, because sometimes even like the lead will be okay, but his goons around him, his buddies, suck. And it's just like, ugh, nails on a chalkboard. That isn't the case here. I actually thought whoever was the casting director for this show did a phenomenal job of finding a couple of kids who were interesting and gave pretty solid performances and were believable. And you really felt for the kid who plays the Antichrist. I think it's Damien? No, Adam. Adam's his name. Mm-hmm. The kid who plays Adam, because I thought they gave him a lot to work with, and there's some scenes where he's being, where his anti-Christian nature is taking him over, and it gets to the line of being over the top, but it never crosses it, and I thought he did a pretty solid job for his age and the material that he worked with. What do you think, Jesse? How'd you find the kids?
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I knew it was going to probably be tough to kind of pull off being the Antichrist. That's kind of that's a big role to play, and kids did fine. I mean, we have what was it? It was a set of four kids here that were hanging out together, and they had to play innocent, which they pulled off pretty well. They were just out on the countryside playing, and then things start to change for them. And I found a lot of the way that the kids were written was fairly accurate too. I mean, I think at one point, the girl who was she was the voice of the rest of Adam's friends. When he starts doing some pretty bad things, when he finally, I think, gives their mouths back to them, which was pretty horrifying. I think she says, I don't know if this happened before or after, but either way, she looks at him and she says, "We don't like you, and we're not your friends anymore." Now, that's something I hear a lot around my house and my kids. But that to me portrays, accurately what kids would be saying and how they would react to something like that. It's, I think Adam had obviously the most weight on his shoulders. The kid who played Adam, he had to he had to play this kid who immediately turned evil and was going to potentially be the devil's son. I'll gladly say that they did a fine job handling what they had to do on screen, and I wasn't taken out by any of their acting.
Yeah, no, the kids did a great job. I mean, they, like I said, Adam had a lot on him. I mean, he had to play a normal kid, then start turning evil, and then stop being evil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a lot for him to do.
Yep, I thought he shouldered it pretty well, and again, I thought the kids were pretty solid around him. I don't, when I watch these shows, Jesse knows from having done a couple of the Marvel ones with me, there are times where I'm just like, I just don't care about this plot line. Please move on. There weren't too many fast forward parts for me in this. I dare I say there weren't any. I was very much interested. Anytime Sheen and Tennant were on screen, I was hooked. And then the kids, I was like, well, let me give them a chance here. And the kids never really bothered me. And like I said, to the point where it gets a bit too pitchy for me, where he's floating and yelling at them and he takes their mouths. I was like, okay, we're getting to that line. We're not quite there yet. I'm not rolling my eyes, but I was getting to a point where I'm like, come on, like
speed things up a little bit. Yeah,
move it along.
And the kid scenes really weren't the longest out of all the scenes. They usually seemed, I think, when I remember, they seemed to have shorter bits than the others. So
yeah.
They didn't, spend too much time on them, at least.
You look at the length of this series; it's only 6 episodes, which is great. They were able to pack in everything that meant something, I think, in these 6 episodes. Now, I'd read or was watching some reviews on YouTube of people who had read the book, and one guy was saying that he would have rather went into this show not knowing what was happening in the book. That way he wouldn't have been like, oh, they didn't do this or oh, they didn't do that. But he said if he wouldn't have read the book, he would have been perfectly pleased with what was on screen. The kids' arc, thank goodness we didn't have 13 episodes to draw that out on. Jeez. Could you imagine? My goodness.
No, I'd rather not.
Yeah. Sometimes those things are like, did they really need to be 13? Make them 10. Make them 9.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Dude, we've been there.
You're singing my song, man. I can't tell you how many of these, like I said, like the Marvel shows that with the 13 episodes, I'm like, this needs to be cut by 3 or 4 or 10.
Oh, yeah.
So the third leg of the stool, which again starts a little uneven for me, but I think towards the end I got wrapped up in the characters. Was the anathema device, who is Agnes Nutter's last descendant, and her partner in crime, Jack Whitehall, who plays Newton Pulsifer. What a name! Who is rubbish with a computer, and he is a descendant of Witchfinder. Thou shalt not commit adultery, Pulsifer. I know this was by Terry Pratchett, but Al, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Douglas Adams.
Does this not scream Douglas Adams to you?
Oh, yeah. And I'm sure he was an influence on both of them, definitely. I mean, Douglas Adams was a big influence on a lot of British writers and science fiction stuff. Plus, he even worked on Doctor Who a while. Go bring it back to that again. Yeah, so he was...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I can definitely see the Douglas Adams influence. And it's very British. Very British.
Yes.
A lot of British comedy.
Yes, it is.
A lot of little weird things like the name.
There were probably 5 or 6 times where I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is some British humor right there." Like when Crowley comes barreling through the town and his car's on fire, and we have to stop and talk about why the guy is not going to reference the car is on fire.
Oh, that is totally a Hitchhiker's Guide thing. Totally, influenced by that
so much.
And this is my favorite part of the whole show, but the episode where they look at their friendship over time, from
that episode is great.
Yeah, and it's just like the little, when he saves them in Paris during the French Revolution, and then they're going back and forth. Like again, I'm like, if I had to read the Wikipedia page to remind myself who wrote this, because I would have sworn on my kids it was Douglas Adams. It's like if you've read. Not only the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but the Dirk Gently books, which, I don't know, Al, have you ever read any of the Dirk Gently?
Actually, I need to read the Dirk Gently, but I have read all 5 of the Hitchhiker's trilogy, as he says there is.
Yes. Jesse, in your fondlings of books, have you...
No, I think I have a couple Douglas Adams books sitting over there in a pile of stuff that I've not read yet. But yeah, I know of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Love the film, but I've never read it.
Oh, Jesse.
I can remember the game. There used to be a computer game called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I'm pretty sure.
That.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know if it was text based, but it was some weird stuff. I remember my uncle had it. It was a huge box, and it had a bunch of stuff in it too. Of course, it was it was blessed by Douglas Adams, so I'm sure it had all sorts. It probably had a towel in there or some kind of crap. Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things, if I can make a brief aside. One, and I don't know if you've ever heard it, Al, but there was a box set of CDs for you kids. A CD was before streaming. It was a disc that you put music on, and you played it, and you could hear music. There was a box set of BBC radio recordings of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I remember I listened to it, I think, when I was in high school, and I would just lay in my room listening to this over and over again. It was like several CDs long, but it was one of my favorite things to listen to. Have you ever heard it, Al?
I actually did get that out of the library probably in junior high. Mm-hmm. So when I got it, all right, kids, there's this thing called cassette tapes. And they were these little tapes with little magnetic tape on it, and if they came unwound, all you had to do to fix it was get a pencil.
Now, you don't stick that pencil in your eye, you stick it in the spokes of the cassette tape, you see. We used to have to fix things ourselves back in our day, children. These were the dark times, before the Empire. In any case, Jesse, if you should ever find, in your various meanderings, you just buy it online or find it somewhere, the BBC radio show for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it is amazing. But I would also tell you, in all of the spare time that you've got, just sitting around doing nothing.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm doing.
You really need to at least read Hitchhiker's Diner. Was it Diner at the End of the Universe? Restaurant at the End of the Universe, and
Life, the Universe, and Everything is the third one.
Yeah, read the trilogy proper. Was it So Long and Thanks for All the Fish is the one with the dolphin on the cover?
Yeah, and then Mostly Harmless.
Yeah, I mean, I've read them all too, but I would absolutely recommend the proper trilogy. Maybe So Long and Thanks for All the Fish. You can probably skip Mostly Harmless. But that's
the one where he's like a caveman or something, and he makes sandwiches.
Yeah,
that was his job. That was weird.
What kind of goofy British stuff are you guys reading?
Do you know the premise? I don't want to get off too much on a side tangent here, but do you know what the premise of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is?
Like I said, I've seen the films. That's all.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
okay.
You have the premise, and it has a lot of the highlights of it.
Okay.
To round this back to Good Omens, when he's driving through the city and his car's on fire, all I could hear was the Benny Hill music in the background. That just was only missing yakety sax.
Oh, speaking of the music, I mean, I don't know. We usually don't go there, but this Queen soundtrack on this whole series was amazing.
Oh yeah,
it was great to hear. Some Bohemian Rhapsody, freaking another one, Bites of Dust, almost
Bicycle.
all the classic. Yeah, Bicycle, which I don't think I ever heard until I watched this.
Really?
Oh wow!
No, I don't think I ever heard it until I watched this show.
Bicycle gets
that's
referenced
a class one.
I was going to say, Bicycle gets referenced a lot in film. I'm really surprised that's the first time you heard it. But yeah, so going back to their whole plotline, Newton Pulsifer and Anathema Device. So their Pulsifer is actually a computer engineer who every time he is cursed that by every time he touches a computer, it blows up and everything around it.
Yeah.
Which... Oh man, I was screaming that at my TV.
Yeah, I know.
At the last episode, I'm like, "What are you doing? Just grab a hold of the computer.
Just press a button. You're going to kill it."
Right. It's like, come on, it's your one mutant power. And then you have Anathema Device, who is the descendant of Agnes Nutter, who has this book of prophecies that she's following in order to stop the end of the world from happening, if I remember correctly. And they become joined. One of the Yeah, and one of the prophecies, I think, actually says they're going to get together, and so they do. Lucky dog he is, because he's one good-looking number, that gal. But yeah, I thought they
she's
were
out of his league completely.
you know what? You can't. Come on, love is love. You never know.
All right, hey, I'm not judging their relationship. I'm just saying. Okay,
she's out of. I would say she's out of most people's league, but I think it helps that he's one of the people who helps save the world, so that kind of does help him.
Yeah, they got common ground.
Money and power makes us all attractive. Let's not forget that.
All right.
So let me go over to you, Al. Where I'm trying to get to with this is that they are a charming couple. They are fun together. Separately, they were a little trying for me. I was like, let's move this along. Where are we going with these two people? Once they got together and they were, and they are on the hunt. They are trying to solve the mystery and deal with the end of the world. And then there's a lot of fun stuff happening as Adam starts to lose his mind and go crazy. I started to enjoy them, to the very end of the series. What did you think of their part of the storyline?
I liked them all enough. I was a little concerned because, like I said, I couldn't remember where this was the book, so I didn't know exactly where it was going to go. So I was wondering if they were going to do almost like a redo of the original relationship between his descendant and hers. Was he actually going to try and kill the witch? Like, was he actually concerned with witches? Until he met her, and then he's like, no, I really don't give a damn. I just had to have a reason to get out of the house.
Right.
Yeah. Just kind of fell into doing something.
I just needed something to do because I have nothing else to do, and I have no reason to leave the house. This gave me reason to get up and go do something. I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine then. But, because I was like, oh, I don't want to watch him try and I don't want to watch him try and kill her, and I don't want to watch him and Michael McKean be bad guys.
Right.
But, they really weren't. They were more slightly antagonists, and then just not bad, and then really not bad guys at all.
Well, Michael McKean as the Witchfinder General kind of comes across as a bit of a kook.
A bit of a kook?
just a smidgen, British kook, less kook than American. American kook, which is far out.
He's Scottish though, I think, laddie, if I remember correctly. At least he sounded majorly Scottish to me.
Sure. That's all British. Right, Jesse?
It's all Wales, Africa.
Damn it! Now you chucked me into the boards. Now I'm ass over tea kettle in the penalty booth.
But I do love when he first meets Newton, and he's like, here, like, come on, pay the man for lunch, and they keep this change. He's so cheap.
I think I didn't realize until I started the second watch of it, because I got up to like episode 3, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to refresh. It's only 3 hours, So I watched it a third time, and I honestly thought they were like, there were Witchfinder Pepper and Witchfinder this and Witchfinder that. I thought those were actual people, and then I realized what he was doing was he was running a scam by telling them that he had an army, but he kept saying like innocuous names for people that were in the army, and he's sitting there at the table with Crowley, and he looks over, and he's running out of names to say. So he looks over, he's like, Witchfinder Table, Witchfinder Salt. He's just making up stuff. And I was like, oh, he's the only one left, and he's running a scam trying to get all this money from him to support his army. So I didn't catch that joke until afterwards. But yeah, great portrayal.
Oh yeah, that was the whole thing. Yeah, that's the joke from, what's it called, Anchorman. I love Lamp. Are you just looking at things in the room and saying you love them?
I got a kick out of the relationship with the landlady, and so she's clearly got eyes for him, and he's just like, what do you want, boy?
And she's like, whatever.
Right. They had an adorable relationship, just simply lovely.
And I love their ending. That's great.
Yes. Jesse, how many nipples do you have? Let's just make sure we get that out of the way. Our Witchfinder and our witch. What did you think?
Oh, they were great. These were two, an actor and an actress that I don't think I'd seen before. I don't recognize Jack Whitehall at all, at least not off the top of my head anyway. But he did a fine job. I thought their relationship was. It was destined to be. Ask Agnes. It was going to happen. But yeah, there was. He had a he had a destiny, and he was part of the whole shebang there at the end of things. And of course, she knew. You know, what an interesting name, by the way. I kept thinking that her name, Anathema, meant something. Anathema device. I was like, and of course, all these names have some kind of weird connotation to them, I imagine, at some point, or they don't, which is very British. It's like, hey, here's something that may mean something, but it doesn't.
Right.
So anyway, she did a fine job. She had to deal with this destiny that she was going to be involved in the end of the world. And you know, this is a representation of what we get with Crowley and our angel here. My goodness, Aziraphale. I don't know if I can pronounce it right. But yeah, these are two people that started out on two different sides and end up, liking each other and becoming a couple at the end. So it's another representation of kind of what we get with the two main characters.
All right, let's take a moment here, a brief pause for the cause, because that's all of our main characters. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about some plot elements, like, disliked, things of that nature. But first, a word about Podcoin. Hey, everybody. I really do hope you love the Rattlegion Broadcasting Network. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. Here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code MARKWED5. That's capital MARKWED 5. Capital MARKWED 5. MARKWED 5. And you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code MARKWED5. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. One thing that threw me for a loop, and maybe this is just me, but so a majority of the cast is British, somewhere in the UK, or at least approximating some sort of a British accent. And then you have John Hamm. Good old "shut up and die already," John Hamm, which is my favorite line of this whole thing. Oh my God, die already! Oh, boy, John Hamm, have I been there? Come on, move, get this over with already. But it just, this is a weird thing with me. Everyone's like British except for John Hamm. Even the demons, like when they're prosecuting what we think is Crowley, all the demons down there, everybody in the cast, has an accent. Everybody up in heaven seems to have an accent, except for John Hamm. And it's like, can we just keep with some sort of consistent aesthetic here? I like John Hamm as an actor, and I didn't want him to do an accent, but I just, as much as this is a fun character for him as one of the villains of the show, I was like, I don't know. It's a weird thing to point at, but it's a tiny lack of internal consistency in the aesthetic that threw me for a loop. Go ahead, Jesse.
Come on, man. Heaven ain't just for British people. Heaven ain't just for Europeans.
No,
okay?
Didn't you see the movie All Brits Go to Heaven?
Oh, is that what it was called? I missed that one. I caught the animated All Dogs Go to Heaven, but I missed that one.
Boy, that's the second joke I've made about this movie in 2 podcasts.
Achievement unlocked. Congratulations. That didn't take me out. First off, like I said, I was here for David Tennant. I was here for John Hamm. I knew what I was getting, and I had no problem. Didn't make me think that it was going against any aesthetic. I didn't look for this to be just strictly British program, which I think that kind of ends up in their favor, because you want to at least try and draw in some American audiences. So if you can get an American actor, go for it.
They had one. They had Frances McDormand. She was the voice of God.
Well, okay.
Which I think they missed an opportunity to not have Alanis Morissette, but that's besides the point.
Oh, spectacular!
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Yes, indeed.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But yeah, I wasn't taken out. Go ahead, Al.
I was actually just thinking about that now because I didn't really think about that until you said that. I'm wondering, it's a little scary maybe. Maybe that's, because they have him as Gabriel. I wonder if that's how they view Americans. That's where they're like, well, have an American do that.
And there could be some subtle stuff going on there. You never know.
We need a good asshole. Who's a good asshole? Well, any American actor will do. All right.
We need a good representation of a warmongering son of a bitch. Oh, okay. There we go.
So we got cast American. Got it. Done.
Interesting note about Gabriel in this. John Hamm as the Archangel Gabriel, the leader of the forces of heaven. Well, Gabriel was only mentioned once in the original novel. His role was meant to be expanded in the never-finished sequel to Good Omens, so Gaiman incorporated parts of the plot of the planned sequel regarding the role of the angels into the TV series plot. In the novel, the leader of the forces of heaven was the Metatron, which was played by Derek Jacobi, who is the spokesperson for God. So, interesting note there. I'm going to pitch it over to you guys. Just kind of give me your thoughts on the villains of this thing. You have the two demons that are interacting, one of which gets holy water dumped on his lizard head.
And a classic. Like, that is a classic prank. The old water bucket on the door. And you're like, of all things.
Who doesn't love a good holy prank? So you have those two who are pursuing Crowley and interacting with him throughout the 6 episodes. You have the one gal who, when they're prosecuting him down in hell, who's covered in bugs and
Beelzebub.
Yeah, Beelzebub.
Lord of the Flies.
And then up in heaven, you have John Hamm and his underlings. Again, this isn't a superhero show. This is kind of a fun show about the nature of good and evil, nature versus nurture. There's a lot of that going on in Adam's story, and just shit tons of sort of a British look at the life of humanity throughout time, which I found hysterical. But we need some degree of antagonists, so there they are. What did you think of them, Al?
Actually, my favorite part for the antagonist was the Four Horsemen.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I did like the. Although I have to say, especially for the demons, I actually developed for both of them. I like how they were so ingrained in their sides that they couldn't even notice anything outside of that. So whenever Aziraphale would say something slightly outside of the complete doctrine in heaven, or vice versa with Crowley and the demons, they just seemed so confused. Like, they looked at them like the dog looks at you when you say, explain this algebra problem to me. And the dog just does that thing where he tilts his head and looks at you confused. Like, they just couldn't understand. And, like, they only were still stuck in their ways when he's talking about creating the M5 and how it's going to aggravate and just, like, slowly kill the souls of all these people stuck in there for hours. And anyone stuck in traffic, even if you don't know the M5, you've been stuck in traffic for an hour and a half trying to get home from work, which should be 20 minutes. But an hour and a half later, you're 5 miles away only. You understand. And they're looking at him like, what's a car? I don't understand this.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're not doing anything, are you?
They were blind to the simple pleasures or the simple frustrations of everyday human life. Which is what makes Tenet in Sheen. I want to keep saying Sheehan. I'm like, whoops, wrong guy. Sheen, just so great. Jesse, and you can expand this to the Four Horsemen, which I think, they were cool to look at and they had some fun bits, but they don't really have a tremendous impact on the plot. So I didn't even think about them. The demons pursuing Crowley and John Hamm had more going on to push things forward and cause tension within the plot.
Actually, the thing about the Horsemen I liked, I'm sorry, and I'll get off them real quick.
Go ahead, man.
You go, Jesse. Is the thing I liked about the Four Horsemen the most was one of the minor characters, the postal delivery guy.
Oh yes, That poor dude. All he had to do was just deliver stuff, but then he, to each one of the horsemen, and of course the last one he has to deliver to is death. And I'm like, when they showed him, I was like, please don't kill this guy. Please don't. I mean, of course they bait you with his, him waking up that one morning with his wife and how, they were going to, hang out later that day or something positive. And then of course he realizes he has to go deliver something to death. And the only way, of course, to do that is to die. That was
But he does come back.
True, he does. When you reset reality, things tend to come back like that. Ned Dennehy is apparently the what is his name on the show? I cannot remember his name. And they call him the Duke of Hell, according to Google here.
Haster.
Haster, there we go. So, yeah, he was rather menacing. There were a couple moments in this where you're like, okay, this guy's real trouble. And, of course, that's how he was written. But when he escapes from the phone by calling, I don't know if it was a scamming agency or if it was an actual agency that does whatever it does, where it was calling people. And he escapes from the phone, and the way he does that is he turns into maggots and floods the room with maggots and kills everybody in this room.
Eats them. Yeah.
That was nasty.
No,
that was nasty.
There were some scenes of general like, oh my god, like creepy, like that, and David Tennant with the plants.
Oh man, he went overboard. He went so overboard just yelling at those plants. I thought that was hilarious, but it was sad too. You're like, you feel for these plants.
It's funny you talk about the telephone gag. That's actually one of my favorite parts of this whole series was David Tennant outwitting the demon by jumping into the phone by calling himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he calls himself on his cell phone and he jumps into his desk phone, and of course the demon follows him and then traps him using the voicemail machine.
Which, okay, I'm fairly certain this takes place in 2000. It's supposed to take place at least presently in 2018.
Yes. But he still has one.
Exactly.
Well, look at his car.
These guys keep these relics around, with Aziraphale with all his books. But, the demon has also all these, like, old-style, like, relics because they've lived forever. So there's no reason if it continues to work, why get rid of it?
Yeah,
so he
exactly.
has a damn tape answering machine.
It works for Wonder Woman. If it works for Wonder Woman and other, and vampires and whatnot, why can't it work for angels and demons?
Okay. Very
and
good.
it was a nice little thing. It goes back to what I said about them they weren't able to keep in touch with humanity. It's like they didn't even know what humanity was doing. And so Haster's lack of knowledge about technology is what trapped him.
Yeah.
And actually, going back to what I said before about, because my wife's watching Buffy now, if you remember that season 2 when Angel was bad and they have to fight the judge,
I remember
the big blue guy.
Yeah.
And they say no weapon forged can kill him, so they get a bazooka. And he's just looking at it going, what does that do? And then it blows him up.
I'm gonna have to watch Buffy one day because I feel like everybody I talk to, within the realm of discussing quote unquote nerd culture, has seen and loved Buffy, and it was one of those things where when it was on, I just didn't care. They thought the movie was funny. I'm like, I don't need to see any more Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I feel like we said all we needed to say.
Oh, the movie?
With
Oh,
the
my
movie.
goodness.
And
Well,
then,
no, to be fair,
Let's
I saw
not.
the movie for when it came out, and I remember seeing a billboard for the show. I'm driving home from college one day, and I see the billboard for the show, and I almost crashed the car laughing so hard that they were making a show on it. And then I happened to catch the first 2 episodes, and I was like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
If you ever do watch it, let us know, because season 1 is older, and there's quite a few rough episodes in there.
Okay.
You might want to skip some.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'm going to want to talk about it, maybe with a therapist. My cousin, actually, when she got married, she, I think her instead of, like, Here Comes the Bride, I think she walked down to, like, some theme from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
So apparently the show had an impact on those who watched it when it was contemporary. It was just did not move me at the time, but I feel like it's something I'm missing out on. Anyway, with all that said, I think we've done the cast enough. I want to pitch it over to you guys. I talked a little bit about what I really liked about this show. I'm going to ask you, Jesse, what were some of your favorite parts of the show? What spoke to you? What's some of the stuff that you maybe struggled with, if anything?
Okay. Well, like I said earlier, I really do like the subject matter. I'm not going to try and get uber serious here, but as a Christian, we'll just say an extremely undereducated Christian. I know about the Bible. I've read a little bit of it, but I also recognize some of the, I want to say, just some of the stuff that's in there that just seems to contradict what we as humanity would believe in. And I think that this show does a great job of comparing and contrasting. Okay, this is what God at one point did, and what do you think of that? I mean, what kind of sense did that make? Specifically, my favorite part of it is when Aziraphale and Crowley are talking before the world the locality that they're in is about to get flooded. And Noah is loading all the animals up onto the ark, and the exchange goes something like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And Aziraphale's like, "Well, God's a little upset. He's planning on wiping out humanity." And he's like, "Whoa, wait a second." Crowley's like, "What do you mean? That's a lot like what we would do. What's going on here?" And it's just an interesting take on some of the insane stuff that you read in the Bible, that Old Testament stuff where God was he was a vengeful God, and it just taking a modern spin on it, a modern look at it. And there's a lot of that happens in here, a lot of it. It's a great piece of. I imagine the book probably does an even better job, but it's a great piece of it's a great piece of content to kind of really set back your fervorous religious expectations and just kind of dive into it with a little bit of an open mind. And sometimes you might see like, okay, yeah, some of the stuff that's happened, some of it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of the Bible as history, and sort of the Bible as history kind of falls into two categories. One, it's taking events talked about in the Bible and ascribing what most likely or what was proven to have happened in the physical world. So, like, for example, Noah's Ark and the flood, the smiting of Sodom and Gomorrah and all of that was I think two things. One, Noah's Ark wasn't really like fucking elephants and giraffes in the Middle East. It was the farmers living in an area of the Mediterranean which got flooded, like the rivers flooded and everything, and they put their farm animals on boats. At least, I've read some. It was probably at least two, male and a female, because there was only so much room on the boat. In some cases, it was whatever they could get on the boat. They weren't really concerned with checking genitalia at that point. But that's what it was, and so which then bleeds into the other section of like the Bible as history books, which look at mores and practices at that age of humanity versus stories to tell to moderate those behaviors. Like there are things in the Old Testament say, do this, not that, be this way, not that way, because we were trying to not die. And then people who wrote go ahead.
People didn't know how to prepare shellfish. You kill people. Don't eat that.
Right. Be married, moderate yourselves, have families, because we need to propagate the species, and two, there was a lot to be said about woman's influence on man, and what do you call it? I can't remember the word they used, but basically like calming a man's natural behaviors so that the species will benefit from them being around, basically, and not being wild animals for a variety of reasons. So I bring this up because it turned around and just kind of killed any kind of it killed for me a look, especially any books about Gnosticism that I've read, just wiped out the mysticism of religion. That the idea of these are ethereal, sort of otherworldly things that that give us calm. I can't do it. I've read too much. And it doesn't sound like it, I'm sure, but I've read so much of this stuff that I've now, it's kind of like knowing all the magician's tricks. Like, oh, well, I already know how this goes, so fuck it, whatever. But so by the same token, and this is where I'm going with this, a show like this one or a movie like Dogma, which really plays with this and says, how about we draw the curtain back, and we bring kayfabe back to religion, and let's pretend it's mystical and magical again. And that, for me, was the fun of this show. You know what I mean, Al?
Yeah, no, it was definitely... It did have that fun of like, oh, no, there actually is demons and angels here. But also, going back to something Jesse said, and it's a reason this show is probably able to do this, where, like you said, it took a look at this without the religious fervor, is because it was British. I mean, we have more of that religious fervor built in a lot of times in the United States. Mm-hmm. I mean, their main church is the Church of England, which was formed because one king was like, I want to kill my wife, and I want to divorce the next one, and then the other one I want to stick in a rocket. And the Pope's like, you can't do this.
Oh, you're doing an Eddie Izzard bit, aren't you?
Well, a little bit, yeah.
Fourth wife made out of jam.
What are you doing? Forming the Church of St. Bastard?
You can't do that, you silly bastard.
But basically, that is the formation of the Church of England. So, it's not going to be as overall as fervorous because, it's formed on that.
Yeah, we,
and they kicked most of their crazies out. They came here.
Right. The devout left in a hurry.
Yeah. Yeah. Those Puritans came here and were boring. Yes. and they had parties back there.
Speaking of which, I just want your quick response to this. I know you guys joked about the Netflix thing, which refers to, and I'm just going to read straight from the wiki here. An online petition erroneously requested Netflix cancel Good Omens has reportedly received more than 20,000 signatures from people objecting to the show's content, unaware that the show was actually on Amazon and was also a mini-series with no cancellation necessary. I couldn't think of a more British thing that happened to this show.
Exactly.
weren't you just making a comment earlier about how the demons weren't aware? Well, now.
But
I was amused by that. I'm like, it's over already. Okay, you win. That's fine.
Cancel this show. Well, you got us, cops. Put the cuffs on.
We won't even put it on Netflix. We promise.
But the petition posted as part of a return to order campaign by a U.S. Christian organization criticized the show's irreverent treatment of topics relating to Satanism and the devil and the use of a female voice for God. And they ended up correcting it, but it's back up for whatever good that's going to do.
Yeah, that'll be
Any thoughts? Any comments on that? Just it was a thing. It happened to the show. It's worth at least spending a word or two on it.
Oh, it was hilarious, is what it was. Mm-hmm. It's just people who have no open mind. I think at least they have a bit of a closed one. I'm not going to just completely blanket everybody and say, okay, yeah, you guys didn't know what you were talking about. So I'm sure a lot of people really had, some good motives in what they were trying to do here, but they did not give it any thought as to what they were signing. And here's the thing, if these people aren't reading something that they're signing their name to, I'd hope that they would, if they're going to be a Christian organization, religious organization, read the text that your religion tells you to do first, and then go ahead and read the petition that you're going to sign.
It's so funny to me because one of the founding principles of this country is the idea of criticism. You should be allowed to criticize and tear down just about anything without suffering, at least from the federal government, repercussions for it. Yet this
as long as it's not my thing.
I was you beat me to it.
Sorry.
But we are filled with people in this country who's just like, I'm all for free speech as long as you're not criticizing the thing I like, in which case you should be shot.
Look at, I forget who played him, Chef on South Park.
Oh,
he was fine with everything they did. Yeah, thank you. He was fine with everything they did until they touched on, I think it was Scientology, which was his, and then he got upset.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, we could do everything else, but we're not touching my thing, right? Because my thing's perfect.
I don't want to go off on the side here. I don't know if you listen to the Jim Cornette podcast, but he talks about, we're just, I mean, he's talking about wrestling, but you can apply this to just about anywhere in the culture right now. We're so thin-skinned, and we're so unable as a majority to take any kind of criticism about ourselves and what we like. It's just painful. It's just painful.
It's almost like I'm hearing about this whole thing with the petition, and part of me was almost like a little jealous of these people. I have way too much stuff going on in my life to care about a thing that if I'm not going to bother watching it or whatever, then I just don't care about it. Because if I didn't watch Good Omens, you know how much Good Omens would affect my life? Not at all. But I guess their lives are so perfect and everything that they have nothing else to do.
So, life after The Last Jedi and the Game of Thrones finale. I've never wanted to punch people so hard in my entire life. So I can just imagine how they felt that, their Last Jedi is the actual Bible. But still, the difference being I didn't. Didn't feel the need to take it, and it was more just being angry at people who were that angry that they didn't like the ending more than anything else. Not even that I was upset about it. In neither case, I was like, it's fine, it's whatever. It's a fucking show. It's a TV show, for Christ's sake. God,
you don't like it? Don't watch it.
Exactly.
Go do something else. Go for a walk. All right, let's go. Burning Desires. Last words here. I'm gonna throw it to you, Al. We covered a lot here. Just kind of overall, anything left worth discussing, or your overall impression of the show?
I mean, this was a really good show. Like, where all the things we're talking about, it's kind of harder to try and think of the things that were negatives. Because, like we said, the cast was great. The story was really good.
I told you what was negative. Great. John Hamm's not British enough.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, we're stretching for it.
If that's the biggest criticism you can come up with, man.
It's like, this was really just a really damn good show. And while part of me is upset that there's not going to be more, because I want more of the good thing, part of me is also really happy that it's over. We can't have a bad season of it, because we just have this.
Yeah, sometimes
I'm just happy.
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes a miniseries, you've told the story that needs to be told. I watched When They See Us on Netflix, which was about the Central Park jogger case, and it was like, okay, you've now told at least one side of that story. Please don't do this anymore. Don't do any... people were calling for more seasons of When They See Us, and I'm like, they fucking got out and sued the city and won. Hooray!
Oh God, yeah, that reminds me of. That sounds like. You ever watch? Either of you watch Lost?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it was season 2 or 3. I forget which one. They bring in the tailies, and you have 4 or 5 episodes in a row, which is basically the same story, but just now from this person's point of view.
Yep.
And her point of view, and his point of view, and that person's point of view, and I'm like. I'm getting tired. I've seen the same thing. Nothing's happening on the show because we're watching the same events over and over and over again with just a slightly different point of view. Get on with it.
Yeah. Well, welcome to watching Arrow. Good.
Yeah, but at least there's some ass kicking in the Arrow.
There is definitely some ass kicking in Arrow, but you want to talk about mining the same thing over and over and over again. Yeesh. Jesse, unless there's anything else, Al?
No, that's it. I'm good.
Okay, perfect. Jesse, your final thoughts here.
I was just going to hop in there and say I was kind of swerved at the ending there. I thought we were letting it open for another season because she got the whole new box of prophecies, and then, of course, they just take it to a fire and burn it up, right? Is that what happened, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they get rid of them.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, yeah, they kind of closed the book on it. So, because I was sitting there thinking, I thought they opened it up for season 2, and I was like, oh, no, they didn't. They went about their life without having to worry about knowing what's in store for them, which is a great – there's a lot of great messages throughout this whole series. A lot of things that amongst all the humor – amongst all the religious connotation, there is the basic premise of friendship, the basic premise of forging your own destiny. It's a great 6 episodes of a tight, well-told story. I had a great time watching it. I thank goodness they didn't take, like, as humorous as it was on Amazon, so I was kind of worried about maybe the sex and the violence and stuff like that. But this is something I would almost feel comfortable with telling my 14-year-old daughter, hey, you might want to check this out. This is something that you might actually enjoy. They could have taken it to a whole different level, and they didn't. This was respectable enough. Aside from the language, I mean, if you're worried about language, which, trust me, I'm unfortunately not here in the Starcher household. Language is the least thing. We're not too worried about that. But yeah, I mean, this is a great tale, and 6 episodes did it justice. I had a lot of fun watching this. I'm glad I got the chance to talk to you guys about it.
Yeah. Oh, real quick, but based on what you just said, I almost guarantee you that box had nothing written in it.
Oh, really?
She knows. Agnes knows what was going to be done. She knew they were going to burn
You're
it.
probably right, yeah, because everything was accurate.
Because remember, they even said it is the only book of 100% accurate prophecies. Everything else has been partial or might have a little bit, but she is 100% correct.
Yep.
She knew.
She did.
All right. Well, I enjoyed talking about this with you guys. This was a kind of a short and sweet one, just how I like it. I like my women like I like my coffee in a plastic cup. That's another Eddie Izzard joke, Al.
Yes. With a spoon.
Do you have a flag? All right.
Do you like bread?
Coming in bees.
Are you guys sure you're not British? I mean, I'm just asking.
I'm sorry, that is one of the best comedy specials ever.
There's quite a few of them. They fall off a little bit after, I think, Dress to Kill. But
Dress to Kill is the best one. But it's one of the best ones ever, I think. Just like comedy skits, comedy specials.
Yeah, Dress to Kill and the one before it are my 2 favorites by Eddie Izzard. All right, enough of the Eddie Izzard podcast. We love you, Eddie.
Yes, we do.
Al, tell them about your podcast.
My podcast is Resurrections, an Adam Warlock and Thanos podcast about the Marvel comic characters Adam Warlock and Thanos. It's right there in the title. ResurrectionsAdamWarlock.tumblr.com. Just type in Adam Warlock or Thanos and any podcatcher you use. We're pretty much the only things that will pop up.
What you doing these days? What's your next show about?
Well, how soon is this coming out?
When we're done talking.
Oh, okay. Then hopefully 102 should be out this coming Sunday or Monday. We're almost done with Infinity Countdown. And then we're going to be covering some of the stuff with Adam Warlock and Thanos in the 70s, leading up to their endings in the 70s.
All right. As for me, we are just about closing in on the end of August here. As I said, this is going up if you're listening to us on the 23rd or the 24th. You'll also get some boxing coverage this weekend. We've got Vladimir Shishkin versus DeAndre Ware on Showbox. And we'll also be covering the Sergey Kovalev versus Anthony Yard boxing match for the WBO light heavyweight title on ESPN+. We'll have some D23 coverage. We've got Superman and Lobo on Source Material, Krypton Season 2, Rage of Light Imploder, and we've got the Banana Splits review, the sci-fi horror movie that's finally dropping on digital for those people that want to purchase it. I think it's already aired on Sci-Fi. Apparently, I missed it when it happened. But the movie is coming to Blu-ray and digital this week. So once that drops, we'll do a review of that, which you can listen to. Also, Alexis Hana, Robert Winfrey, and Jason Teasley are going to review Ready or Not on a special episode of Damn You Hollywood. And finally, we'll be doing a review of Zombie Tidal Wave, because I got my arm twisted on that one. And we're going to kick the wrestling coverage to 2 weeks from now. Myself and Chris Bailey and Pat Mullen will do New Japan Pro Wrestling, London Quest, Royal Quest, NXT UK Cardiff, and AEW All Out as one show like we did with SummerSlam. And we'll do that for you a week from Tuesday. In the meantime, we will have coverage of UFC Andrade versus Zhang from China at O-Dark early in the morning, so you can look for that. Jesse, tell them what time it is.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, first off, go give the Rattlich In Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. My show, Source Material, is participating in the Superblog Team Up. Try that again. Superblog Team Up, as well as the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. So this coming Wednesday, the 28th, I'm making sure. This coming Wednesday on the 28th, we will have 2 shows dropping in participation with the Superblog Team Up. Our topic is Immortal. The Radulich and Broadcasting Network will be airing a commentary for Jupiter Ascending. That's right. And then Source Material will be dropping their coverage of Vampirella, Roses for the Dead.
Whoa,
so,
Vampirella.
Sing it. So, check that out. Also, the Unspoken Issues podcast has dropped there, I think, this past Wednesday, where we discussed Magnus Robot Fighter #1. And upcoming, I'm pretty sure here within the next couple weeks, will be our discussion on Supreme #42. So that will be a lot of fun. Check out the Unspoken Decade for all your 90s comics needs. And I'm ready to get out of here. So I just ask that everyone make sure to keep track of your nipples. Have a good one, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Radulich, take us out.
All right, make sure you check out our Patreon page, patreon.com/Radulich. Check us out on Podcoin, that's podcoin.com, or check us out on your Podcoin app. Right now, if you subscribe to Podcoin and you listen to our show, you get extra Podcoins, so check that out. Al, if you haven't claimed your podcast, man, claim it so that you can be a hot podcast and get to, maybe find some new listeners. It's the thing to do. Trying to tell everybody about it. Podcoin. It's a great way to get new listeners to your show. Maybe people who wouldn't have normally found you, because it makes you, when you claim your podcast or you do ads like I've been doing, puts you right in the forefront of the Podcoin app. So people who aren't necessarily looking for you will see you. Works for me.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me offline, and I'll tell you all about it if you need some more information. All right. In the meantime, in between time, thank you for joining us here on TV Party tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Do it right to update your home and stick to your budget. Lowe's is here to help with Labor Day savings throughout the store. Upgrade your appliances and save up to 40% off select appliance special values, like a Samsung front-load laundry pair with steam in a champagne finish was $19.98 and now is just $13.96. And refresh your home with $15 off gallon cans and $45 off 5-gallon pails via Lowe's gift card rebate when you buy select interior and exterior paint and stain. This Labor Day, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Paint offer valid through 9/4, appliance offer valid through 9/11, U.S. only.
Honda's Summer Spectacular event is on, and every new Honda is on sale.
South Florida Honda has it.
Well-qualified buyers can save thousands today with 1.9% APR financing on the 2019 Honda CR-V. 2019 Edmunds buyers' most wanted vehicle. Every new CR-V is on sale, and you'll save thousands with 1.9% APR financing during the Summer Spectacular event at your local Honda dealer. Compact SUV segment. See dealer for financing details. Offer ends 9/3/19.